Hello and welcome to the Successful Product Launch Podcast. I'm Alex, your host, and I'd like to welcome you to Engaging Tech's very own podcast. Engaging Tech are a digital agency who are passionate about building successful, market-leading digital products and services to ensure a happy and engaged workforce. These podcasts are brought to you by Kelly Brewer, CEO, who will be talking to up-and-coming business owners and discussing their journey towards their successful product launch. We gain valuable insights into real-life stories and uncover the reality and challenges faced in their journey. So, let's jump straight in. Over to you, Kelly.
So thanks so much for taking the time, as I said before. It would be great if we could start off, if you could let us know a little bit about who you are and what you do, to give everybody a bit of a background to you, if that's okay.
Yeah, I'm Jeroen, co-founder and CEO of Salesflare. And at Salesflare, we build an intelligence CRM for small companies selling B2B. That's mostly agencies, partly marketing agencies, partly software development agencies, and startups, largely SaaS companies, so software as a service companies. And what distinguishes us from competitors is that when you use Salesflare, you don't need to spend a lot of time filling data out, and it's also the interface makes it much easier for many people to work with.
Great. And what factors would you say contributed to the success of the product launch?
Our initial product launch, or we did a lot of product launches.
Yes.
So in many, so there was a product launch where we would launch our first product, and we would get that in the press locally. And then there was a launch where we basically launched the product fully online, where that means that you could subscribe online, etc.
Yeah.
That we did in slightly larger press, and then we launched again on Product Hunt, and then we launched again on AppSumo, and then recently we did another big Product Hunt launch again. What we learned is that, first of all, it's very important to clearly state what you're launching and why it's different, and why people should be excited about it. Then make sure that the people who are already excited have a voice also in the launch.
Yeah.
So for instance, in the two Product Hunt launches I referred to, and also the AppSumo one, people who were excited really made that clear.
Yeah.
Shared, for instance, in the last Product Hunt launch, where we launched our new feature, email workflows, where you can basically build email sequences within Salesflare. People made videos of how they use these email workflows to inspire others to do the same. So it's not a very dry, just product launch, let's say. There's a community behind it.
Yes, and I can imagine the kind of human side of that, and a recommendation from somebody else that's not the product owner or the company that's launching the product probably goes a lot further as well, doesn't it, in those instances?
Yeah. It's in many instances difficult to have someone else fully launch it, unless, of course, on Product Hunt someone else can hunt it.
Yes.
That's nice, but not a requirement. If you would go on Product Hunt, you would see that many of the top upvoted products are actually hunted by the makers themselves. That was different in the past, but nowadays, because the hunters on Product Hunt don't have that much importance anymore.
Right.
But in general, yes, if someone else recommends your product, it has 10 times the effect of you doing it yourself. Like I see the difference, for instance, in Facebook groups. When we do, let's say, a webinar for a group to show them how they can specifically use Salesflare for their use case, because these groups are usually like focused on a specific thing, then it's much more powerful if someone else presents what they're doing than if we present how you can use it.
Yes.
It's yeah.
It's almost from a user perspective, isn't it? Then, which people can put themselves into the shoes of others.
It gives it much more credibility and takes away part of the promotional aspect. Let's say, I think people have less of a feeling like, oh, this is sales stuff, I should probably ignore it.
Yes.
When the company itself doesn't do the promotion.
Yeah, makes sense. And then in terms of acquiring your first 100 customers, what were the kind of steps and what were the things that you went through to get to your first 100, would you say?
It's a very, very long story. But it all started with talking to our own network, I would say. And I actually did a poll in a Facebook group, SaaS Growth Hacks, last year, where I asked the same question to the companies in there. And for going from 0 to 100 customers, most commonly it's really talking to your own network. So ideally, when you launch something, it's for a target group that you know well. So it probably means that you know people there. If you don't, then you should start creating that network. But it obviously helps when you already have a large affinity with the target group.
Yes.
You do customer interviews with people. So understanding in the space where you're building a solution what their biggest issues are, so that you validate that the problem you're facing is one of these issues, and that you understand the surrounding issues as well, and that you can then sort of scope the problem space, let's say, in which you're gonna work.
Yes.
This gives you a lot of, if you do it well, insight into what they're using, what's wrong with that, what is currently not solved, why not, what they're looking for, what their feelings are about these things, and helps you tremendously with in sort of building your solution to that problem. At first choosing the exact problem, like I said, and then choosing how to build a solution for it.
Yeah.
And it's also a perfect first step towards sales, because all sales starts with identifying a problem and then solving it, and then getting rewarded with money for solving it. So if you can do these first talks, which a lot of people are usually open to, you ask for referrals while doing it. Like, you ask at the end of each interview, like, which other 3 people should I interview about this topic? Then you can expand your network like that.
Yes.
And while you're at it, you're building a network, you're finding out about your solution, you can start building like a first minimum viable / lovable product, or minimum sellable product. There's different levels to it, but you can bring that back to the network you've created, because if you've done it well, you've written it all nicely in your Excel sheet or your CRM. And you know exactly who was looking for what, and based on that deep knowledge of what these people are looking for, you can more easily make the first sales. Because if you would try to do that sort of in a cold sales kind of way without digging in first into what the issues are, it's super hard with a solution that is not necessarily mature and trustworthy. And so you need to dig into some really deep issues to be able to get someone to buy from you with something that is maybe not on par with other things, but solves their issue in a specific way that others don't.
It's all about relevance, I guess, in that sense. So you've got to make it relevant to that person.
Yeah, exactly. Because you need to be all the more relevant to sort of bridge the lack of credibility.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. And in terms of the most effective thing that you're doing at the moment in terms of customer acquisition, what is it today that you would say is your most successful channel to customer acquisition?
I must say, of all the things we've tried, and we tried a lot of things, word of mouth is still the number one thing, and that comes in many forms.
Yeah.
It comes in reviews on review websites. It comes in recommendations on other blogs. It comes in people asking on social media and saying, what's the best CRM for whatever, and I have these needs. It comes from just people talking to other people. And there's also affiliate program, which has a similar goal, but then with monetary rewards. And sort of testimonials in groups and communities, webinars, these kind of things, where it's really about people telling other people how they use the product, why they use the product. It's the most effective way of doing marketing. And also within the sort of competitive space we're in, it's almost a necessity. Because just doing ads is ROI wise not really great, for instance.
No. Perfect. Thank you. It's really interesting. I think it's amazing how it always comes back down to the people part of everything. The word of mouth, the recommendation, and if you look at, well, certainly if I look at myself and somebody recommends something to me, I'm 10 times more likely to use that than whether I saw it on an advert, even if I've seen that advert 15 times. So it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? But it's
yeah, definitely. In these days where there's so much calling for attention, people fall back more and more to their social recommendations that can come from their friends or family or colleagues, but it can also come from some influencers or consultants, or it can come from many places. Another way is content marketing, and it's something we do very actively. It's offering value to start building a relationship with a larger audience, just not only your customers. Getting some credibility, showing what you're capable of. But I would say that's secondary.
Yes.
If I were a starting company, I certainly wouldn't start there.
No. Great. And then in terms of your biggest struggles that you faced whilst growing Salesflare, what would you say are the kind of things that you've that have been tough that you've had to overcome?
Finding out what I just told you.
Yeah.
Was, trying lots of other stuff.
Yeah.
That had half results. Keeping focus is very hard. It's something we get better at more and more, but really not being clear on where to spend our energy on the longer term is highly damaging.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you get good ideas here and there, like we should do this, we should do that, and then you jump on something and you forget other stuff, and sort of the shiny I don't know what it's called, effect.
Yeah, it's like the grass is greener on the other side. It's almost like, oh yeah, that looks great, and then you get there and actually you look back and you think it wasn't so bad, or we should probably just do
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah, there's some strategies that you should probably look at, but then at some point you get distracted by some other thing that looks shiny and new, and the other thing is not really working at that moment, so you just jump over to the other thing, and then after, I don't know, half a year or longer, you're like, maybe we should get back to whatever we were doing before,
yeah,
because that actually made sense. And I think we lost quite some time that way, and we still do, but less than before, which is the important thing.
yes, yeah. I guess learning to recognize when it's the right time is the key thing there, which nobody ever knows. But managing that process, to your point, is, I guess, the best way to move forward on that, in that sense, without completely stopping any creativity or ideas, which is also a danger.
Yeah, correct. What we're doing right now for that is we sort of set our focus areas, and we defined the input we need to make, like the amount of experiments we need to do per month, you could say. And we do these consistently. We call it the habits. And we have habits on different levels. And we have a sheet in which we keep what we do every month. And we keep delivering on that continuously. And then next to that, we can do other stuff. But at least this consistency is in place.
Yeah, and it gives you a path, and it also means that, I guess, you feel that you're working towards a common goal that you've kind of got some focus on, and it brings benefit rather than going off on a tangent so much.
Yeah, and keeping the rhythm there, because it's easy to sort of let it slack. Yeah,
understood. Great. And in terms of COVID-19, you've probably talked about this loads, but have you, and if you have, how have you had to adapt your business as a result of this? Have you seen any sort of change in what you're doing?
I would say, compared to other businesses, for us the change is rather minimal. We sold fully online before the whole COVID-19 thing. We have customers all over the world, so I never drive to them. It also would be highly time consuming.
Yeah.
So what we mainly had to change was our internal meetings.
Yes.
Which after a week or two, we successfully did. I think there was not too much adaptation. We just open up Zoom and a Google Doc, and we have the same meetings as we would have with a whiteboard in the meeting room.
Yeah.
It works well. For our results, there's some pressure on new revenue, although it seems to be relieved right now. I actually have a record amount of new leads in the pipeline at the moment. But April in general has been a bit down. Churn has not changed dramatically. It was very similar to before. In terms of product, we're seeing that some things are getting adopted quicker than others now. So where our product already supports a lot of collaboration digitally on sales and tracking of emails and calls and all these kind of things. The main thing we're seeing now is that an integration with video calling, something that a lot of people are working on, is getting more relevant. So we're working on that. Apart from that, our priorities largely stay the same, I would say.
Yes. Yeah. Great. And then the final question. So if you could advise somebody who's about to embark upon a product launch, what would you or their initial product launch, what would you advise them?
In which stage are they of the product launch?
So that they've built their product, they're looking to go live with real customers now.
So they're just pre-revenue, as they say.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But I would really focus on closing these first deals, listening a lot, understanding what these people are looking for and why they would pay.
Mm-hmm.
I would focus all my energy there, not focusing yet on the big sort of marketing launch, if that even makes sense in the business you're in.
Yeah.
Because it might be that you're in some kind of high touch sales business, and then maybe the marketing launch is not really extremely interesting. Maybe to get a few leads, but I would really focus on getting that sales down and taking it from a very hands-on perspective.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to Engaging Tech's Successful Product Launch podcast. We enjoyed gaining some valuable insights and hope that you did too. Like all of our interviewed entrepreneurs, we also place the customer at the center of all our work. At Engaging Tech, we are passionate about building successful, market-leading digital products and services to ensure happy and engaged workforces. Don't forget to hit subscribe and stay tuned on our social platforms and website to ensure you don't miss our next podcast launch and blog post.